Central State Show is usually accompanied by some memorable rare coin auctions, and this year was no exception. Let's take a look at Heritage's World Coin Signature Auction, starting out with a coin that at first glance might appear to be a bit of a strange fit for a list like this. After all, you can find coins that look like this one for a few dollars at an average coin shop. But this is not your average British Exposition crown. Instead, this is the Proof VIP version, with a mintage estimated between only 30 and 50 coins, featuring a deep relief that distinguishes it from the ordinary coins. The example here was graded by NGC as Proof 67 Cameo and sold at auction for $21,600. Struck a year before its controversial release as a circulation coin, this is a pattern version of the notorious Godless Florin, awarded the peculiar sobriquet for its omission of the DG or De Gratia portion of Victoria's titles on the obverse of the coin, meaning that Victoria, Queen, by the grace of God. Only on this coin there's no strict mention of God. Thus, the Godless Florin was born, graded by PCGS as Proof 66 plus Cameo with some truly stunning toning. This is an excellent representative of the Gothic series, and the coin managed to sell at auction for $50,400. Though practicality dictated that the majority of the coinage during the reign of Elizabeth I were made from silver, it is also true that her three mint masters, Thomas Stanley, John Lannison, and Richard Martin, were all, by trade and training, goldsmiths. So then it would hardly be a surprise to find that her finest coins, and the most revered of those today, would be struck in gold. An exquisite example of this is this 6-issue gold pound, struck in the mid-1590s towards the end of Elizabeth's historic reign. Featuring the Woolpack mint mark, the coin was graded by NGC as MS61 and saw a closing price at auction of $78,000. And while on the topic of Elizabethan coinage, an interesting subset are the milled coinage of Elizabeth I, introduced to the country by French moneyer Eloy Mestrel a full century before the technology would become widely adopted and finally supersede hammered coinage, an early attempt to modernize the Tower Mint that ultimately failed. But this 1562 dated sixpence remains as a testimony to that effort, graded by NGC as AU53 and sold at auction for $3,600. Shifting our attention from there to the Netherlands, and what can easily be argued as the peak of late 17th century numismatic achievement for provincial Holland. In this off-metal gold 1687 ducaton, struck from the same dies used for the regular silver coins, Del Monte refers to this as a trial in gold. So basically what we would know as a pattern coin today. An exquisite example of something that honestly is seldomly seen outside of a book, graded by NGC as Proof 61 that managed to attain a closing price at auction of $93,000. Then we see a stunning Austrian gold coin from the reign of Leopold I. This piece was masterfully struck, clearly with great care, and to the value of 5 golden ducats. This was done with the regular dies from the silver thaler coin from 1669, a piece that is clearly a presentation coin, dated the same year as the birth of Leopold's eldest daughter. Perhaps that's merely a coincidence, but then it's also fun to think that, well, perhaps it's not. Authenticated by NGC, the sole example certified to date as MS64, the coin achieved a closing price at the unreserved auction of $192,000. The proof pattern gold sovereigns from the Sydney Mint of the mid-1850s are some of the most extraordinary coins from this unique period in Australian numismatics. They stand apart not only for their rarity, with most having no more than perhaps 3 to 6 examples known today, but also for their exceptional design and execution. The so-called Banksia head design of Queen Victoria admittedly remains one of my personal favorites, and possibly one where the Royal Mint's chief engraver, William Wyan, may have been outdone by his son, Leonard Charles Wyan, in this particular regard. Here we have an NGC graded Proof 65 Ultra Cameo example of that same series of coins from the remarkable Regent collection, dated 1855, that was sold at the auction for $240,000. With a matching half sovereign from 1855, also classified as a pattern coin, appearing 3 lots prior, there are only 6 of these coins traceable today. The current example was graded by NGC as Proof 66 Star Cameo, with fantastic provenance tracing it through the Strauss, the Quartermaster, as well as most recently the Regent collections. No surprise then, when it achieved a closing price at auction of $186,000. Much like the inception of Queen Elizabeth II's reign in 1952, when her great-grandmother, Queen Victoria, ascended the throne in 1837, it was seen as a time of hope and renewal. The young queen, barely 18 years old when the responsibility of ruling the vast British Empire fell to her. The reverse inscription of Dirige Dios Grisos Mios were, as legend holds it, the very first words whispered by the new monarch, half to herself, following the completion of her coronation ceremony. It translates roughly to, "May God guide my footsteps." Today, the Una and the Lion quintuple sovereign, a coin which beautifully celebrates that sense of exultant optimism, is one of the most sought-after rarities in the Victorian series, with the current example graded as NGC Proof 62 Ultra Cameo that saw a closing price at auction of $288,000. An absolute giant within the Australian series is the 1853 Sydney Mint Sovereign Pattern coin. The discovery of rich goldfields prompted the Australian Legislative Council of New South Wales to petition Queen Victoria to grant the Australian colony license to establish the first Royal Mint branch mint outside of Britain. Such license was then finally received in 1853, and in response, this pattern for the first official Australian sovereign was created. Only 4 of these coins exist today. 3 are in museum collections, and this is the only one available to collect, graded by NGC as Proof 63 Ultra Cameo. When the auctioneer's gavel fell, this coin had sold for $384,000. Surely, though, the crown jewel of the Regent collection, as featured here, has to be the Australian 1920s sovereign. Despite its final mintage of 360,180 coins, although already a diminished number within its series when compared to its peers, further exacerbated by mass meltings of gold coins over the following decade. Today, it stands as one of only 6 coins that can be positively identified to have survived, making this, hands down, the scarcest Sydney Mint regular issue sovereign, graded by NGC as MS64+. This gem beauty was able to secure a closing price at auction of $552,000. Subscribe to WNN and activate notifications with the bell icon to know when new videos are released. For the World Numismatic News, I am Numisman saying thank you for watching. Stay safe, keep collecting, and have a fantastic day.